Tonight on the Final Play,
Kiko Alonso came unblocked.
the Saints add a veteran linebacker to the mix as they cut their roster down to 53 and build a practice squad. We're breaking down the black and gold. Plus, LSU unleashes an offensive attack on Georgia Southern en route to a convincing season-opening statement. We're recapping a big weekend of college football that also saw the Wave manhandle FIU and Southeastern upset one of the top teams in FCS.
From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Final Play, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, built Ford tough, and by Ron Austin Law.
Welcome into the Final Play. I'm Juan Kincaid. What a weekend of nail-biting it was for Louisiana football fans, beginning with the Saints, who, like the rest of the NFL, made some tough cuts to get their roster down to the mandatory 53. Sean Vazan brings us up to speed on how the roster looks right now.
Cutdown day has come and gone in the NFL, and the Saints keep on making moves. A big one came Sunday when they traded with the Dolphins for Kiko Alonso in a linebacker-for-linebacker swap with Vince Beagle. That move came on the heels of Saturday's task of whittling the roster down to 53 players. The biggest competition of camp and preseason was the battle for the 4th and 5th wide receiver spots. Several players made their case, but in the end, the Saints went with what they knew and kept Austin Carr and Keith Kirkwood. This move meant preseason star Emmanuel Butler was waived. Some considered him a lock. At running back, undrafted rookie Divine Ozigbo appeared to have the inside track for the team's 3rd running back spot. But the coaches felt differently, and instead, they kept Dwayne Washington. The 3rd tight end was another hot battle during camp. Dan Arnold, Alizé Mack, and A.J. Derby all made a case to be on the 53. But when Saturday came, all 3 were let go, meaning as of now, the Saints only have 2 tight ends on their roster. Along the offensive line, Cameron Tom went to injured reserve. The Saints kept not 1 but 2 reserve tackles in Ethan Greenidge and Patrick Omame. Defensively, the Saints kept 6 D tackles, the biggest surprise being undrafted rookie Shai Tuttle. In the secondary, the Saints decided on 6 corners and kept Ken Crawley, thought to be a long shot originally. And also in the defensive backfield, another surprise. The Saints kept J.T. Gray and cut safety and special teams ace Chris Banjo.
So here are the 10 players that'll make up the Saints practice squad. Wide receivers Emmanuel Butler and Lil Jordan Humphreys. Tight ends Dan Arnold and Alizé Mack, and former Tulane Green Wave John Leglue, who plays along the offensive line. Also added to the O-line, Terrell Williams and Derek Kelly. Mitchell Lavin played here before with the Saints, and he's back on the team again. Taquan Mazzell was also added for the defensive line depth, and they added defensive back T.J. Green. Very busy weekend for your New Orleans Saints. Obviously get the practice squad together, but there's some players and some movement for the last 24 hours that have been interesting. First and foremost, Kiko Alonso, the veteran linebacker coming over from the Dolphins in a trade. That's an interesting move by the Saints, but it tells you some things about where the roster stands right now.
Well, this is a curious one because I'm very curious. Did the Saints reach out for Kiko Alonso, or did the Dolphins call them? Because I'm not sure there was a huge need at the linebacker position unless there were health concerns. So if the Saints reached out to them, then perhaps they were a little bit concerned at their health at that position. But also, considering the fact that the Dolphins have really gotten rid of a lot of their roster to basically just take Vince Beagle, who was a special teams guy, reserve linebacker, for a guy like Kiko Alonso that's a proven starting linebacker in the league. I think at the end of the day, it upgrades your roster, and I think it's a good move, but I'm very curious because if it's the Saints reaching out, then there's some health issues at the linebacker
You're
position.
worried about Alex Anzalone. You're worried about Craig Robertson, 2 guys we didn't even see in the latter half of the preseason. Also a position that was a surprise, Emmanuel Butler, who's been fantastic in training camp, didn't make the final 53, but brought back into the practice squad. Your thoughts on that?
Interesting, because you and I both thought it was out of Kirkwood or Carr for that final spot. We thought Butler was automatically in. It turns out Carr and Kirkwood were in. Butler was the odd man out. Interesting. I thought he had a great camp. Was a little inconsistent in games, but I thought when Sean Payton talked about him after the final game that he had done enough catching that touchdown pass. It didn't happen. Austin Carr, Keith Kirkwood, 2 guys that know the system, can be trusted. Obviously, that went out over a guy, an undrafted rookie that was a little inconsistent. And I think also this, him being inconsistent in games actually helped kind of hide him from the rest of the league, where we all saw him in practice. They don't have access to that practice film. We all saw him in practice. Saints saw him in practice. They were able to kind of hide him a little bit, bring him back to the practice squad, something they weren't able to do with some other players.
Almost a good thing for the Saints that he wasn't as impressive in the games. What's interesting about this cornerback unit the Saints have, it's guys that you know, that you've known for the last couple of years. We question whether or not Patrick Robinson would make this squad. He makes the final 53. P.J. Williams is also there, but Ken Crawley is a part of that final 53. He has struggled over the last couple of years. We know that, but still the Saints view him as a player that needed to be with this roster right now.
Yeah, look, this gained steam towards the back half of training camp and preseason when it became clear that Patrick Robinson was not going to cut it as the backup cornerback to play the outside. They needed a guy that is proven on the outside that could back up Eli Apple and Marshawn Lattimore at either slot. Ken Crawley can do that. He has played better towards the back end of training camp and the preseason. Patrick Robinson, from his contract standpoint, cannot be cut. Too much dead money. So they went ahead and kept Ken Crawley. Look, he was professional about his demotion last year and kind of working his way back up into good graces. But remember, he's a guy who's got a lot of starts. So it's not like he's an unknown to this defense. He started a lot of games back in 2017. Now, in 2018, obviously he struggled. But still, I do think he's a player that, at the end of the day, is good to have in your roster as your sixth corner, because I think that's not a bad situation to be in for the Saints.
The riskiest move this team made, your thoughts?
I'm going to go with Chris Banjo because I think he was a much better special teams player, and he was on the unit last year that, frankly, won the Saints a lot of games. He was a key player. Him, Taysom, Justin Hardy, Craig Robertson, those kind of players. So I was surprised to see him go, and they basically chose J.T. Gray as that special team safety player. I thought Chris Banjo was significantly better than J.T. Gray in that regard, but I think that's a risky move because we saw what happened last year when you have a competent special teams core. It can help you win games. So to weaken that a little bit, I think is a little risky.
Maybe not as risky, but also just as big of a head scratcher. Devine Ozigbo, who we both have liked a lot in training camp, has looked great in every game he's played in, but he gets let go and picked up by Jacksonville. They saw what we saw.
That's the risk you run.
You can't sign everybody.
You can't keep them all. And if you cut a Dwayne Washington, does he get picked up? Are you not happy, or is Devine Ozigbo not quite there yet, and you felt like he was more of a practice squad guy and he was going to get through waivers? Well, it didn't happen. That's the risk you run. I'd be very curious to know if they would have kept Ozigbo and cut Washington. It would have been easier to get Washington back as opposed to Ozigbo. Moot point now. He's going to Jacksonville, a place where you may get a decent opportunity there. That was a kid that really played better and better with each passing week. I thought he had done enough to win that third running back job. Didn't happen. As
we look forward here, getting close to the first game of the season, the Monday night game against the Texans, what other moves do you see coming here? There's still some holes.
Yeah, I'm still not completely convinced that the reserve tackle scenario is going to stay this way. They kept Patrick Omame, and they kept Ethan Greenidge, an undrafted rookie. But you know, Juan, you look around the NFL, this is a problem with every team. There just aren't enough good offensive tackles to be a reserve. I always thought it was going to be a veteran that's on kind of his last stop that got cut for a younger player, would kind of shake loose. It hasn't happened yet. We'll see if it happens later. But I think the tackle position and perhaps another tight end at some point could be another signing on the way.
Okay, we'll leave right there with Sean Lazan here on the Final Play. Thank you, Sean.
All right.
As we move into game week, make sure you join us for the Black and Gold Review tomorrow night at 10:35. Deuce McAllister joins us on set, talking about the Saints, of course, and getting you ready for the team's Monday night opener against the Houston Texans. So make sure you get your questions into us right now using the Final Play app and the Final Word feature. We're just getting started here on a busy Final Play. Next up, what an opening weekend it was for our college football teams. Our first stop will be Baton Rouge, where LSU's Tiger Stadium was electric Saturday night during the Tigers' big win over Georgia Southern. And Saints fans who want to see their team spirit on television.
You're watching the Final Play.
Talk is cheap, and for the last 8 months or so, there had been a lot of talk about LSU changing its offense from ground and pound to a more pass-friendly approach. It was hard to imagine such a change, but it was plain as day in the Tigers' 55-3 beatdown of Georgia Southern last night. Garland Gillen has a recap from Death Valley.
The entire spring and summer, all we heard about was how different the Tiger offense would look with Joe Brady and Steve Ensminger at the controls. Well, we got our first look against Georgia Southern, and the hype was real. Formations consisting of 4 and 5 receiver sets, playing exclusively out of shotgun. It's a brave new world for the LSU O. Joe Burrow took full advantage of all his new toys, going 23 of 27 passing for 278 yards and 5 touchdowns.
We have a great scheme, and Steve and Joe did a tremendous job of check with me's and stuff like that, put him in the right place. But I thought Joe was on fire. He threw some great balls. Our receivers caught the ball. There were those receivers that were open. There were great concepts going on out there. We had no sacks tonight, which I'm very pleased with.
Hopefully we can keep building on this thing. And, I wanted 60 tonight. We didn't end up getting it, but hopefully we'll get that eventually.
There's a lot of talk, a lot of talk all summer. And I was just so happy, for everything to come together and so smoothly. It was great. It was fun to be a part of and fun to watch.
One of the lucky recipients in Burrow's aerial assault, Terrace Marshall Jr. The sophomore racked up 3 touchdown grabs in the contest.
That's what we do. Like Coach Brady said when he first got here, everybody eats. So that's what we doing.
I was so happy for him. He didn't get any touchdowns last year, so I was kind of looking for him tonight. I was looking for him on the first one, and then, ended up just play calls ended up going to him on the other 2.
The competition level will be amped up this weekend with a road visit to Austin. No sleep needed in the offensive office with Texas on the horizon.
Steve Ensminger's got a mattress in the office with a little purple LSU blanket, and I don't think he's left since the beginning of camp. Those guys, I go home at 10 o'clock at night, they're working, I come back at 6, they're still meeting. And they've done a tremendous job, him and Joe and the offensive staff, of putting in this offense and making it work.
All right, we're now joined by Brody Miller, the beat writer for The Athletic for the LSU Tigers. All right, all summer, Joe Burrow is saying they're going to score 40, 50, 60 points, and a lot of skepticism was looked at him. Maybe some people were laughing at him. But tonight, he showed it on the field.
Yeah, the other thing we were wondering in this game was how much are they going to show? Are they going to go vanilla? They went really vanilla, and it didn't matter. They had this. I think the most promising thing they showed tonight was just everything was efficient down to a T. It moved like a machine. It was very methodical, and they just did simple stuff without showing much, and they still dominated them. You saw 2 guys were open on every pass play. They pass protected pretty well. Not a great pass rush, but still. And I just think everything ran really smoothly. They got the ball out like 27 seconds on the play clock almost every time. It was just everything moved smoothly. So that there's a lot of confidence right now that, this could actually work against higher level competition.
For LSU fans, it might be like a man landing on the moon watching this offense now. I talked to Lloyd Cushenberry. I think you were there. They didn't go under center one time. It was all shotgun. This is just a brave new world for LSU fans and this offense.
I know, they're out of the Stone Age, right? People are just getting so sick of every year hearing. I've written stories all summer about, the offense is actually going to be different, and my comments are filled with, I'll believe when I see it. I'm not listening to this, and it was true. They were waiting on the ref half the time to get the play off because they were ready, and you saw they were going 4 or 5 wide almost every single play, and there were guys open. They were throwing to tight ends. It's another thing people keep asking for. So I think just everything they were saying came true, and I think we're only the tip of the iceberg right now.
And Joe Burrow, only 4 incompletions, 5 touchdowns. Everyone was eating tonight. He was spreading the ball around. The hype was on him also, and he showed it out tonight.
And that's the thing. That's the part that almost gets missed when we talk about how good this offense is that I don't think this offense, or how good this offense can be, I don't think he can get there without Joe Burrow. And it's not just because of his arm or his legs. It's because he's really smart, and he's a really good decision maker, and he knows what to do, and he always makes the right read on the RPOs. Because I think when we went to the second team, Miles Brennan looked fine. He looked good. But there's just a difference in just decision-making, processing, how good you are, and that's the big gap. Joe Burrow, every single play, knew exactly where to go, and he thought about it in seconds, and when he scrambled around, he knew where to go, and he just looked like a guy who can be one of the 3 or 4 best quarterbacks in the SEC.
After the game, Joe admitted that he seeked out Terrace Marshall. We knew what Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson were about last season there. We knew what they could do. But tonight, Terrace Marshall had his coming out party with 3 touchdown receptions. Wow, that's quite a coming out party.
Yeah, because everybody knew his talent, right? That's no secret. He was one of the top receivers in the country coming out of high school. Last year, he had an injury thing that was lingering, and he wasn't quite himself. He admitted he was in a fog last season. But the biggest thing is, and it goes back to what we were just talking about, the offense. It changes the way they use receivers. Last year, every play was pretty much designed just for Justin Jefferson, and it was just kind of it was a one-dimensional passing offense. And now you're seeing them go 4 wide, 5 wide, and you're seeing guys get open. So now they're focusing on Justin Jefferson. Jamar Chase is going to be open, or Terrace Marshall is going to be open, and Joe Burrow hit him with ease. And you got to see how talented this receiving core is. We were joking that Devontae Lee, he was like the 7th guy who came in, and that's a really talented player. Trey Palmer, they think he's going to be a stud, and he's the 5th guy. I just think, like we said, everybody eats their motto this season. I think we're seeing it.
On the other side of the ball, all week I heard about the triple option offense and Georgia Southern. It's going to be tough to defend. I mean, they shut that down from the beginning. The game was over with 5 minutes into the contest. They held them under 100 yards tonight.
It was, I know, because you always think, okay, I didn't think LSU was going to have like an issue with them, but it's an efficient triple option. You figured they'd move the ball, maybe score 14, 20 points, they get 200 yards rushing, something like that. It was crazy, and I think what we saw was the benefit of those versatile safety linebacker type athletes they have. You have Jacoby Stevens, who is an outside linebacker who they call a safety. He's a freak athlete. You have Caleb Chasson, who's a freak athlete on the edge and can play in coverage. Grant Delpit flying around the field. That was perfect for this triple option because you had, Jacoby Stevens was flying sideline to sideline. He's had some good games those last month of the season last year. He looked like an animal tonight, and I think that he was a perfect fit for this offense. And the defensive line stopped the dive. Those outside guys stopped the pitch, man. I mean, they looked perfect tonight, like you said. I mean, they couldn't move the ball in the first half.
Georgia Southern is in the Sun Belt. Next week, they are stepping up big time in play here. They're going to be facing a possible top 10 team there. Depends how the rankings shake out when they come out on Tuesday. Texas, are they ready to roll against a team like Texas?
I think, Ed Ogeron admitted himself. The biggest thing we didn't really get answered tonight is the pass protection looked good, but it's against Georgia Southern. They didn't give up any sacks, and that's promising. That's really important. That's the most important issue with this team this season, but it's going to be a different thing facing a top 10 kind of defense like that. I think that's when we'll find the answers. But to answer your question, yes, I think their offense, their skill players will have an absolute advantage against Texas, and I think this defense doesn't give up explosive plays, and Texas is an offense that relies on explosive plays. And I think LSU's defense, Sam Ehlinger's a really good quarterback. I'm not going to argue that for a second. But I think you give LSU the advantage in that battle. And if this LSU offense can look even remotely like it did tonight, yeah, I think they could put up 30 or so on them.
Last question. They didn't show much on offense tonight. I guess that is, for Texas, what are you going to look at to try to gauge how to defend this offense if they didn't show anything tonight, they say?
It's a really good question. I think you're really just looking at kind of the core principles they used, right? I think you're seeing just like, all right, what personnel packages do they use? How do they kind of send certain guys out? Which guys do they like in certain situations? I think you can take that from it. And yeah, I don't think they showed like certain plays and like tricky things and whatnot, but the core foundations of what they're going to be this year, I do think we did see that tonight.
All right, that's Brody Miller from The Athletic.
For more Tiger Talk, check out episode 62 of the Fox 8 Overtime podcast. And to get a breakdown on the Saints roster cuts, pull up episode 63 of the podcast, both of which you can find on fox8live.com, the Final Play and Tiger Huddle apps, and of course, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And as good as the Tigers were in their opener, the Tulane Green Wave did not disappoint in theirs. We'll take a look back at the Wave's convincing home opening win against FIU. And up the road in Hammond, Southeastern flipped the script on 6th-ranked Jacksonville State. We'll also head to Hammond when the Final Play continues.
Final Play, sponsored by Wake Up NOLA. Get smart about drugs. You're watching the Final Play.
The college football season began with a bang for the Tulane Green Wave. What was expected to be a close opener against Florida International was anything but, because the Wave showed up and showed out. They ran all over the Panthers, 350 yards rushing, and quarterback Justin McMillan had a field day throwing the ball, completing 14 of his 18 throws for 199 yards and a pair of scores. The 42-14 win was the Wave's first season-opening win against an FBS school since 1998. And afterwards, all the talk was about the play calling by offensive coordinator Will Hall.
Will did a great job calling plays. I thought our offensive coaches were in sync, and it's good for all of us to get this game under our belt to see what how it really happens in a game.
I can say Coach Hall and Coach Cody have spent, endless hours, in the film room and getting us prepared. And Coach Fobb, the whole offensive staff has came together as a coaching staff to make the best game plan that we can use, and we felt comfortable with it, and we performed.
Equally as impressive as Tulane's win over FIU was Southeastern's domination of 6th-ranked Jacksonville State. The Lions opened the season at Strawberry Stadium and looked impressive, jumping out to an early 14-0 lead, never looking back. Southeastern used their dual quarterback system to perfection as Chason Virgil and Cole Kelly combined to throw for 238 yards and 3 touchdowns. The 35-14 win was Southeastern's first over a top 10 team since they beat then 4th-ranked Sam Houston State back in 2013.
We wanted to keep blowing them out. So that's fuel to the fire. I want to keep the scoreboard low. Like we had a point to prove, and we got a point to prove this whole year.
The news was not so good for Nichols. Their second trip to the state of Kansas in as many seasons didn't end like the first one. The Colonels ran into a buzzsaw named Kansas State. The Wildcats held the ball for more than 40 minutes and scored most times they had it, jumping out to a 28-0 lead at half en route to a 49-14 win. A sure sign of how the day would go for Nichols. Quarterback Chase Forcade threw an interception on the Colonels' second play from scrimmage. Nichols will have next week off before playing at Prairie View A&M on the 14th. Meanwhile, Southeastern will be back at it next weekend, taking on Bethune-Cookman. LSU has a showdown in Austin, Texas against the Longhorns. And the Wave, what an intriguing matchup they'll have at nationally ranked Auburn next weekend as well. Also on Saturday inside the Superdome, a pretty thrilling matchup between Louisiana and Mississippi State. It's a game that the Raging Cajuns never let in, but one they nearly came back to win. Down 3 scores, Louisiana got back to within a touchdown after Shaw alum Trey Regis took it in from 17 yards out. But that's as close as they'd get in a 38-28 loss to the Bulldogs. Still ahead, we wrap up the night with our Play of the Week.
You're watching the Final Play.
Our Play of the Week comes from the Prepsters and from Ponchatoula, land of the strawberries, and the home of quarterback TJ Finley. The LSU commit is known for his arm, but here he shows that he can move a little bit as well. Finley's legs look like they're already in midseason form for the Green Wave, and it's our Play of the Week. And it's finally game week for high school football, which means it's time for another season of Fox 8 Football Friday to hit the airwaves. Sean Vazan, Chris Hagan, Garland Gillen will have all your highlights. Plenty of scores as the show begins its 6th season this Friday night at 10:35. And that's our show for tonight. For all of us here at Fox 8, I'm Juan Kincaid. We hope you join us again next Sunday night for the Final Play.
From Fox 8 Sports, this has been the Final Play, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, built Ford tough, and by Ron Austin Law.